Kenka Bancho is a truly strange beat-em-up that absolutely oozes charm and style. You assume the role of a high school student who decides to ditch learning and instead become the biggest badass in town. But he's not the only one with this idea, with several other students from rival schools also vying for the title. Now the game affords the player a range of powerful moves such as punches, kicks and throws to manage the thugs that roam the streets. As you progress through the adventure, you are rewarded with experience points and currency, which can then be used to unlock extra moves and a huge amount of cosmetic changes and items that will all help you along the way. The overall environment that the game takes place in is surprisingly large, with over 45 different factions in which to locate and overcome. It is sure to last you quite some time. Overall, Kenka Bancho is a solid game that every PSP owner should give a go. Sega Rally Revo is a port of the PlayStation 3 and 360 versions of the same name. It manages to retain nearly every aspect of its home console counterpart and presents a rally experience with a distinct arcade flavour. Because of this, there is not much of an emphasis upon realism, and this shows when making your way around the track. Each car does manage to feel unique, but only in raw speed. The handling of every machine tends to steer towards a more accessible and enjoyable nature that will see you throwing them sideways into corners without much regard. Now there are several modes available to play, from time trial to quick race, but championship has to be the main attraction and serves as the way in which to unlock more cars and tracks that help pad out the game and provide a compelling and rewarding aspect to the otherwise simple arcade makeup. Star Soldier for the PSP is essentially a reimagining of the classic shooter that released way back in 1986. It is based on the remakes for the PlayStation 2 and GameCube, which brings with it plenty of new content and a unique way in which to play. By flipping the PSP vertically, it is possible to enjoy this vertical shooter in the way it was intended to be played. At first it can be quite awkward getting used to holding the handheld this way, but after some time it soon becomes second nature. Jumping into gameplay, there are 3 separate ships in which to choose from, with each one possessing slightly different attributes, so trying out each to see which suits you best is key to overcome the 10 levels that make up a run. Every ship can be upgraded whilst on the field through the use of items. That immensely adds to your overall effectiveness, and you'll definitely be needing them for the boss encounters, which are the real star of the show. Most of them take up the entire screen and require you to figure out their attack patterns and weaknesses whilst dodging an insane amount of bullets. In my opinion, Star Soldier is one of the best shooters on the system, and well and truly deserves a spot in your collection as well. Split Second is a rather unique driving game that sees players taking part in a fictional reality TV show, with each vying for money and victory. Now what makes it stand out when compared to other races on the system is the way in which you can alter the track you are racing on, through the use of a special meter known as the power play. By performing well on the track, such as drafting your opponents and drifting around corners, or performing stunts such as mid-air takeovers, the meter slowly builds, and once activated, several obstacles are created on the track, from falling debris to new shortcuts for you to choose. It manages to add a fresh take on the usual gameplay found within driving games and lends Split Second an identity it can confidently call its own. Now there are many subtle differences with the PSP version. Aside from the obvious downgraded visuals, there are several positive additions, such as more tracks and gameplay modes that make it the best version in my opinion. So if you're looking for some fast-paced racing on the system and have exhausted the other options, Split Second is well worth a go. R-Type Tactics transforms the popular side-scrolling shooter into a turn-based strategy game, which sees players taking command of a wide variety of units, all from the series' history. As you would expect, the differences between units really help in the several situations you'll find yourself in. From close-range damage dealers to support and artillery units that strike from afar, there are many options when it comes to advancing, which makes each skirmish all the more enjoyable. There are 3 campaigns in total, and throughout each you will slowly earn and unlock more units that grant you even more abilities and options when it comes to engaging the enemy, which can have an important impact upon the gameplay. With more than 200 available, you'll never be at a loss as to what to use. Although it was only released in Japan, it did receive a fan translation, which makes the much more robust narrative available for players in the West to enjoy, which in all honesty is far superior to the first outing. Taito Legends Powered Up is a compilation of 25 games that span from 1978 to 2005. The amount of diversity on offer makes the package an extremely appealing option for any player wishing to relive the golden years of gaming, with such classics as Space Invaders, Balloon Bomber, and Lunar Rescue to name a few. Each of them come with a range of customization options, from button configuration to difficulty to number of lives and time limits depending on the game. But not all of them are simple ports. There are several deluxe versions as well that manage to reimagine the originals with updated visuals and audio, which makes the compilation all the more compelling. Now, I'm not going to sit here and attempt to break down 25 separate games, so I can't really comment on the merits of each inclusion, but with such a wide variety of genres, there is surely something that will satisfy those who buy it. Me and My Katamari is the third game in the series and was the first time the game was brought to life on a handheld. The gameplay retains much from the previous titles and sees players taking on the role of the prince. After the king of all cosmos destroys an island, you are tasked with creating several new ones for the residents who reside there. Now, the basic objective sees you rolling around each stage and collecting as many items as possible. At first it can sound quite tedious, but the quirky and vibrant nature of the experience will really help draw you in, and without a doubt you'll soon be hooked. Although due to the lack of a second analog stick, the control setup can take a while to get used to, but in no way does it detract from the game. With the amount of levels and items to collect, there is a seriously good amount of things to do. In order to fully complete the game, you have to collect each and every item, which immensely adds to the overall replay value of the experience. Me and My Katamari would make a great addition to your collection. Parodius Portable is a sort of love letter to the entire franchise. It brings together all of the main releases into one package, as well as a pretty impressive remake of the original game that released for the MSX way back in 1988. Now, for those not familiar with it, Parodius is basically a side-scrolling shooter with a rather comedic twist. You can play as several characters, an octopus or a penguin to name a couple, and then jump into a ship in which you take on the several levels that comprise each game. As with most shooters, you'll find yourself coming into possession of a wide variety of power-ups, both offensive and defensive in nature, that help even the odds against enemies, especially during boss fights, which in all honesty have to be the real highlight of the experience. Both in their design and function, you'll be encountering giant penguins and ghastly ghosts that manage to bring a real charm to the overall collection of games. If you're a fan of Gradius or R-Type, Parodius Portable will be right up your street, and it might not be the best shooter on the system, but it will still provide hours upon hours of entertainment. Mega Man Powered Up is a rather cute and interesting take on the Mega Man formula. You'll find yourself traversing a wide variety of levels and acquiring a whole host of special power-ups and abilities that make the journey all the more enjoyable. From tossing bombs to shooting projectiles, there is always an option at your fingertips. But what steals the show is the inclusion of a hard mode, which will test even the most proficient of players. Without this, the overall game would come across quite easy, so it's a very nice inclusion, especially for veteran fans of the franchise who will likely find the challenge welcome as well. Complementing this is a rather robust and well thought out construction mode that allows you to essentially create your own levels. By playing through the main game, you slowly unlock items and enemies to use for your own creations, with this aspect of Mega Man Powered Up soon becoming the most rewarding and addictive part of the game. Just having the ability to basically create an infinite string of levels truly propels the overall replay value of the game. If you're a fan of the franchise or just the genre in general, Mega Man Powered Up is well worth a purchase. Macross Triangle Frontier is loosely based on the Macross anime and sees players jumping into a huge array of machines that have the ability to transform into several states, those primarily being fighter jets and incredibly powerful mechs that grant you a whole range of abilities in which to take on the mission-based adventure. As you would expect, each machine can be fully customized with a whole host of weapon loadouts and visual touches that allow you to cater each to your specific style of play. May that be up close and personal or attacking from a distance, there are a generous amount of options that facilitate each way in which to approach each mission. On top of this, several character-specific abilities are included that manage to help out during the more intense situations you'll find yourself encountering. Out on the field, the controls are tight and responsive, allowing you to engage each enemy with confidence. Visually, the game is stunning and really shows what the PSP was capable of when in the hands of the right developers. If this one passed you by, now would be the perfect time to jump in and give it a go for yourself. Well, that does it for today's video. Make sure you hit subscribe to stay up to date on future videos, and as always, thanks for watching.